Hello. So I've been half blind for a little over a month and a half now, and I thought, let me finally get around to answering those questions that I asked you guys to ask me on Instagram about a month ago. So the first question that I actually got a couple of times was, how did this happen? And the short story is, I went in for surgery to get a tumor removed behind my right eye, and when they basically after the surgery, they found out that it actually was not a tumor. It was basically a mass of blood vessels where veins were connected to arteries that shouldn't have been. So when they took that mass out, there was a lot of bleeding going on behind my eye, and so much so that it put way too much pressure on my optic nerve, which is what connects your eye to your brain. So now I'm half blind. If you want to know more details, I made another video that I'll put the link in the description for, where I talk a lot more about all that happened at the hospital if you're curious. But moving on. So the next question is, what was my first reaction? And honestly, like when I very first found out, it's kind of like a blur, because all I remember is that it was me and this doctor that I had just met alone, and he had me cover my good eye, and he kept shining a light in my blind eye, and all I saw was just darkness. And it was like freaky, but also everything just happened so fast after that I didn't really have a chance to react, because once they realized that I couldn't see, they quickly sent me off to get scans, and I had 3 emergency surgeries, and it was extremely painful. So I didn't really get a chance at the hospital to process it until I had come home from the hospital. And then a week later, I had my stitches out, because I actually had my eye sewn shut for a week. And so when I got my stitches out, that was the first time that I was actually able to open that eye. And that's when it really hit me that my eye is open, but I can't see. And I kept covering my good eye, and that was when it really hit me, and it was just really trippy. The next question is, does my blind eye hurt? And the actual eye itself does not, but all around it, this whole area, this is where I got my stitches. Right here is where, to get behind my eye, they had to actually remove a part of my skull, and they put it back. But because my skull was messed with, it's more like this area beside my eye is sensitive. Just kind of feels like a big old bruise. And actually, for a while, I couldn't open my jaw all the way. I just now am able to use an electric toothbrush again, because at first it couldn't fit back there. But so not really my eye doesn't hurt, but just kind of around it is still sensitive, because I got my skull knocked out, or at least a chunk of it. The next question, do I feel like my good eye has amplified in sight since the other one doesn't see? It hasn't amplified. I actually just got my eyes checked this week, and my prescription is the exact same as it was before, but it definitely has adjusted, because for the first month after the surgery, I would get so worn out and get headaches a lot, which from what I've read was actually my brain adjusting to my new perspective, my new field of vision. So I guess my eye has adjusted, but it still has the exact same prescription, so it hasn't amplified in sight, but it's just, I guess, gotten more used to looking around more than it did before. And then the next question, kind of going with that, is, do I think my other senses now have extra strength? Not really hearing, but I use touch more, because my depth perception is off. So I have to touch things more than I did before. When I'm pouring a cup, I make sure that what I'm pouring is touching the cup. So otherwise I might miss it, and I have missed it. I spilled lots of cups of milk for my kids. So I just use touch more with depth perception to see where exactly something is, because the way my eye sees it, because you lose depth perception when you lose vision in one eye. So everything to me appears closer than it really is. So yeah. The next question is, how is my balance? Now that it's been a month and a half, really almost 2 months, I feel like I'm pretty well adjusted balance-wise. Stairs aren't a big deal. At first they were, though. Everything has just taken adjusting. When I first got home, I felt off balance in my own house, especially on the stairs, and even sometimes lying down, I felt like I was laying down at an angle. It was weird. but I've adjusted pretty well since then. Although the only thing that's still trippy is movie theaters, because they're dark and the stairs are like not like regular stairs, they're like more long, so movie theater stairs are still a little trippy. But other than that, I feel pretty well balanced. The next question is, what has driving been like? So honestly, with the whole losing your vision in one eye thing, it's not that big of a deal for most of like my everyday life. Like everything is pretty much the exact same, except driving was the biggest adjustment, because as I said, my eye sees everything because of my lost depth perception. I see everything closer than it really is. So like if I pull up to a drive-through or an ATM, I feel like I'm right close to whatever I need to be close to, but then I end up having to like open my door and reach way out because I'm actually really far away from it. And so parking is the hardest part of driving. Like I've already gotten used to driving on like roads and highways and all that stuff, but parking is tough because first of all, I drive a big car. I have a Chevy Traverse. But second of all, like if I park in between two cars, if I'm pulling in, I feel like I'm going to hit the car on my right because I can't tell the distance between my car and their car. So that's a little tough. But for the most part, I've already I drive like I normally did before. The next question, what has been the hardest part of this whole experience so far? So physically driving was the hardest part to adjust to. Also, side note, putting eye drops in a blind eye is extremely hard because it's already hard to get eye drops in your regular seeing eye, but like I have wasted so many eye drops because I always end up going too low where they go on my cheek and like run down my face. But anyways, besides that, on a more serious note, like I guess the hardest part has just been kind of at first, I feel like I'm in a much better place now, but there for a while I would kind of go up and down, where some days I felt like this whole experience had really strengthened my faith in God and his goodness, and I feel like a boss mom and like all these good positive feelings out of this experience. And then other days I have, thoughts where like this sucks, like I'm 30, like I'm still pretty young, right? 30's still young. Other times I think like, this sucks, this is hard, like why did this happen kind of thing. But, I feel like it's okay to have those moments, but, just don't stay there and don't dwell on those thoughts too much. So when those thoughts come, it's, I just give it to God. I take it to him and I just say like, God, this is one of those days, like, this feels hard. And, I don't know. I just feel like I've kind of already come out of that. Life goes on. We got to move on with things. You know what I mean? So there's that answer. The next question is, you have a pretty positive attitude. Thanks. Is it hard if friends or family project sadness about it? Kind of. It's honestly it's not really hard, like hurtful. It's more like annoying. Like people will kind of be like, with good intention. Nobody's been like, mean about it. But I feel like some people are kind of come off with like a little bit of a patronizing tone. Like, oh, look at you. You're doing this thing again. And like I said, for the most part, things are the same as they were before. Just, with slightly less field of vision. But I can still do everything I could before. And so I guess I just don't like the patronizing comments like, oh, look at you. You're doing like things that I did before just fine, that weren't a big deal. So that's it's just annoying. It's not really like difficult though. The next question, kind of going with that, is there something that you think that the person asks, is there something that you think your friends and family should know that will help you? I guess stay on if you're talking to me and like we're like standing, I prefer for you to be on my left side. It's my right eye that can't see. So I don't know if you've noticed, I probably have done it in this video because I look around a lot, but this eye moves with this eye, except because this is where like the surgery happened, it doesn't move to the right very well. Like when I look to the right, I kind of go a little cross-eyed. And so I'm self-conscious of that. Like that's one thing that I guess another part that has been hard about this. I don't like that my eyes get like, I call them crazy eyes. Like especially if I'm looking in a mirror to the right, like that takes adjusting. But so I'm self-conscious of that in social settings. So it helps me if you're on my left, because then I don't have to think about like where my eye is going or like how my eyes look. So, and if you can't remember which eye is the blind eye, just look for the scar on the side. Plus, this eye isn't as open as this eye, so that's kind of like another sign. But other than that, I guess I just want everybody to know that I'm okay. Like, yes, this was a very, very hard experience. Honestly, the hardest part of the experience was the hospital, because that was just extremely painful. Like I said, I talk about that more in my other video. But other than that, like, I'm okay. I can still do everything I could before. In fact, I don't even qualify for handicap parking, which is like, I'm not blind enough. So, you know, just treat me the same as you did before. You don't have to like feel sorry for me or anything. God is still good. I'm still very blessed to have, you know, one seeing eye that has a good enough field of vision that they don't give me handicap parking. Not that I'm bitter or anything about that. But anyways, just know that I'm okay, and it is a big deal, but it's not a big deal. So, and it also, another thing, it's okay to joke about. It's okay to talk about. Like, it doesn't have to be this like sensitive thing we don't mention. But yeah, I hope this video is helpful to anybody out there who might be in a similar situation. I just want to encourage you, like, it's really tough at first, but it gets better and life goes on. That's it. See you later.